Okay, with all of this that we've talked about and all these tax cuts, what does it mean for the future? Who would like to start? I know we all have some opinions.
I can start, y'all can if you want to.
Where's the money coming from, John?
Okay, so Brent and I have both been down at the legislature for a long time trying to change things. And the normal situation at the Texas legislature is they are broke.
Yeah.
That's what it is, session to session. They'll pass the buck on costs by saying, oh, we'll change the fiscal year, from September 1st to August 31st, or from August 31st to September 1st, so they can just not have to fund stuff because they have to balance the budget. They're not allowed, like the federal government, to run debt. And so they found themselves this year with $38.4 billion extra. Now, a little bit of that came from the oil and gas severance tax because the price of oil had gone up. And so they had some money there. The real big money came from the federal government. And it came in the form of the CARES Act and I forget what the other one was.
ARPA.
Huh?
ARPA.
Yeah, and so in those situations, the feds looked around the entire United States, and because the economy was sagging, they realized that the local governments weren't going to have enough revenue. So they shipped big dollars to the states. And then on top of that, they sent checks to a whole bunch of people to have extra money to spend because they didn't have money otherwise. And those people used that to buy stuff that's subject to the sales tax. And so the sales tax revenue went up. So as a result, it was like Christmas when the legislature arrived. And so they did what any good outfit will do is they pretty much have spent it all by the time y'all finish voting.
Yeah.
And we'll see if they do anything with actually funding schools when they come back again. But bottom line is they're not going to have $38 million. They said that they were putting $18 billion into schools, but $5 billion was already pre-committed. In other words, from the prior legislature, they had already passed that cut. So they really only put $13 billion in. And so far right now, the controller says the sales tax money is coming in really well. They are looking like they are going to have some money at the start of next year. Sort of depends what happens actually the budget just started. It's a 2-year budget. And so it started September 1st. So we're really new into the budget year. So we'll see what it is. The real problem is, if not, what happens? Because, they passed these tax cuts for 2 years, and they funded it for 2 years. And the schools now are stuck with having lost $60,000 in homestead value for each house in the school district. And if this money doesn't come from the state, where's it going to come from? If the money is not there to compress the rate, where is it going to come from? And, we in Texas hate property taxes. We hate taxes, period. So over the course of the years, there used to be a state property tax, and we passed a constitutional amendment to abolish it. We used to have, we had the ability to pass a transfer tax, and we abolished it. What else did they abolish? Income tax. Last time we voted on constitutional amendments, we said, oh, no way, Constitution, no income tax. And on your ballot today is the option for a wealth tax. And I'm sure that one is going to pass as well. So that leaves you from the charts that Adam showed you earlier with the property tax being 50% of all the taxes collected in the state, and the sales tax being a third of the overall, and the rest of them are just tiny little taxes. There's no place to go. And so, I think and it may not hit 2 years from now, But if it doesn't, it'll hit 4 years from now. And so beware that all gets dropped then back into the school district's lap, into Kevin's lap, as to now go figure out how to fund this.
Yeah, one of the things that as a city official and a county official that we talk about is making sure you match up your recurring income with your recurring costs and expenses, right? And I would just argue Austin didn't really do that. That if you have a one-time income for some reason, right, a grant, or oftentimes we consider sales tax to be very volatile, so you have to be careful about spending all of your sales tax every year. So if you have those that are not necessarily going to happen again over the years, then you should be careful about implementing something that will also be recurring. And that's the problem you're talking about, John, is that we have got some one-time dollars that we have then essentially committed to recurring expenditures. That's a problem.
Yeah, and today is the last day of the third called special session, and the Senate will adjourn sine die at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And I was just talking with Senator Betancourt's office today, and they anticipate the governor will call them back at 5 o'clock to start the fourth special session. So they're not done spending money yet. And so the question, to Tracy's point, where does it come from moving forward? It's easy to spend other people's money when you have $33.8 billion in the bank. What do you do when you don't have it and you're actually in a deficit? And there have been times in Texas history where we were in the hole. So they're going to have to come up. We saw the chart earlier. The property tax generates roughly $80 billion worth of revenue for local government each year. How do you come up with $80 billion outside of the property tax? You see a lot of folks talking about eliminating property tax, and that's great. If we could figure out a way to do it, I'd be out of a job, but I'm all for it. Let's make it happen. But you got to come up with that $80 billion somewhere. And as John mentioned, they've already excluded a state income tax, real property transfer tax, all of these other things. All you're left with really is sales tax or consumption tax. What would the sales tax rate have to be? And that's a big argument. Some people
Somewhere
say
about 22% is my understanding.
Yeah. So if that's the case, I'm going to open up a large retail, or I'm going to sell everything I can right across the border, and everybody can come buy from me and pay the lower sales tax. But it's a quandary, and I think that the legislature is going to be scrambling at some point to try to figure out how to fund all these things. But it's going to get them reelected this time.
That's right.
And that's what matters, right?
I think I'm not sure I totally heard your number, but there's at least $28.5 billion of bonds. We got Prosper up here, who a few years ago built a $60 million football stadium, and now they're on the bond asking for $100 million to build the most expensive high school football stadium in the state, probably in the United States.
Part of a $2.2 or $2.6 billion package just in Prosper.
Yes.
And then the people of Prosper are going to wonder, what happened, why don't my taxes go?
Yeah. And on top of that, the other thing, there's at least a half dozen, if not more, school districts that are also on the ballot for today that are asking the voters to allow them to increase their tax rate above the 2.5% because they can't make it. So the legislature is compressing here. The legislature is giving more exemptions, and everybody else seemed to have seen a great opportunity. The city of Dallas is working on a bond package for May. I forgot how many billions that is. But yeah, I mean, what you're seeing, and see, that part don't count in the school district's numbers that you're getting benefit on. So yeah, we're about to, what's happened every time the legislature has done something, somehow your tax relief has been erased.
That's right.
Not sure it's going to happen immediately this time like it did in the past, but it's coming.